Well said. Well, thank you all. This is new, novel. We haven't done a bill signing in the governor's office, so I'm honored that this is the first bill that we are signing in the governor's office, and signing it, interestingly and appropriately, on former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, former Governor of California, Earl Warren's desk. It's just interesting. For those folks that forgot he was Governor of California, hopefully this desk is a reminder of that. And for those that have forgotten their history, Warren was known for many things, but one of them, quite significantly, Brown versus Board of Education, was a foundational principle that I think defines appropriately this moment. And appropriately, we are here in that spirit. As you know, I have a why. People in life have to figure out their purpose. My purpose years ago was to stand up, I thought, stand up for ideals and strike out against injustice. It sort of paints the lens to which I see every issue, and that made this issue an easy one for me. This issue of hair is more significant than many people may think. It's an issue perhaps that some will just lazily mock, as is their wont, but those that take the time and think about it, those that take the time to educate themselves about it, I think will conclude what the legislature concluded, what Holly Mitchell, Senator Mitchell concluded some time back, that this law is long overdue. I, like millions and millions of Americans, was brought to a consciousness around this issue last year when a young man by the name of Andrew Johnson, a wrestler, 16 years old, in New Jersey, went to the mat and was ready to enter into competition, and at the mat was asked by the referee to either submit, forfeit his match, or to cut off his dreadlocks. His dignity being exposed, his decision whether or not to lose an athletic competition or lose his identity came into, I think, stark terms for millions of Americans that had never had that opportunity. That was fixated, still is fixated in my mind. You watch that video, it's worth rewatching that video because that is played out in workplaces, it's played out in schools, not just in athletic competitions and settings, every single day all across America in ways subtle and ways overt. And the subtlety is something I won't speak to, but you all can speak to in a moment. So this issue is important. This issue is in front of me today because of one person, and that is Senator Mitchell. I just want to thank Senator Mitchell for bringing this to the California legislature, for getting it downstairs without one no vote, which is any of us say, you should applaud that. That's usually, sun rises, we think, and sets, though there's some people that don't, may not even see that with some clarity. But I just want to thank her for her conviction, her passion. I had the privilege of watching some of the testimony, some of the clips, and just powerful. And the way you presented this, the way you educated folks, which is a big part of this is about educating folks, not just signing laws. Program passing is not problem solving. You got to change culture, not just laws. So it's nice to pass a law. We got to change people's minds, and we've got to execute that in a much deeper way. And I think that's the privilege of this moment, is this opportunity for California to lead, the first state in the country to advance a bill like this and encourage others to do the same. And I think you're going to see a dozen plus states in the next year. I'd be surprised that don't follow suit, right? So with that, I want to pass over, at least end my comments, and ask the author of this legislation, Senator Mitchell, to talk a little bit more about this and maybe introduce some of the folks that are behind me, in particular, one individual. Where'd you go?
Let me say she's over there.
Oh, see, you.
Let me say what pride it gives me as a third-generation Native Angelino, as a black woman, the fourth black woman to serve in the California State Senate since statehood, to stand with you in partnership with the governor, surrounded by black women and honorary. Jess. Jess is, Jess has soul. To talk about, and for you to talk about from a real place of knowledge and knowing. Many people say, well, it's just hair. Can't you change your hairstyle to get the job? But you, without any education from me, understood that for us, it is a symbol of who we are. I know when I locked 15 years ago, that I knew that it was both a social and a political statement to the outside world, and I was ready for that. When I first ran for office in 2010, I knew my locks would be perceived as a social and political statement, and I was prepared and ready for that. And to come full circle almost 10 years later, and to be able to use my life experience, our collective experience, as locticians, women who it is a part of the profession of what they do as cosmetologists, to care for and nurture natural hair. For Dove, for the industry to understand that this is a movement, natural hair is a movement, and that there is a market. And that we, as consumers, as top consumers for our for hair products and services, are helping to drive a market that is responding to this movement. And that makes me very proud. And so thank you for creating the opportunity in California, what we hope will be nationwide, for people to show up at school ready to learn, for people to show up at work ready to give your top performance, reflecting who I am as a person, and not needing to alter that to meet someone else's comfort level or to meet someone else's perception of what's professional in the workplace. All of us up here are quite professional every day. And so thank you for the opportunity and for your willingness to sign the Crown Act.
And this is actually the legitimate signing. It's not one of those signings. Some of them, I confess, are duplicates, all right? But this one is not. And it's making my staff nervous because they hate when there's an original bill that's not in their possession. But
Everybody
in mine.
squeeze in. So we can be part of this history making.
All right. Are we ready?
We're ready.
We're ready.
Right.
All right. The Crown Act is now law in California. Thank you, Senator.
I'd like to thank Ms. Bracy, who's Vice President with Dove, who pulled the Dove Coalition together, who was the first person who talked about this possibility as a law that I heard last November at a conference. So thank you for being with us here today.
And thank you for stepping up.
Appreciate you.
It's one thing to understand there's something, another thing to do something about it.
Thank you.
And thanks to you, Senator Mitchell, and thank you to you, Governor, for paving the way for all to come.
Beautiful. We have representation here from the local Urban League, other representatives from Western Center Law and Poverty, who's a part of the Crown Coalition. So we thank you.
That's great. And we're happy to take any questions, folks.
Yeah,
Let's get back up.
Mitchell, just to be clear, so this bans discrimination in schools, so would that apply to public schools, sporting events similar to the event that the governor referenced?
Absolutely. When we first introduced the bill, we focused on the workplace, and then we realized, quite frankly, that if we only focus on the workplace, that teachers would be covered, but the students in the schools would not. And so we amended both employment code and education code in SB188. And the focus on schools are these new dress codes that schools have. What struck me, Governor, I was going through a photo album by happenstance this past weekend and ran across a picture of myself and my mother the day I graduated from high school in 1982. And I was reminded that I wore braids all through high school. In Riverside, not the most progressive, bastion. And it never was an issue for me to wear braids throughout high school. And I'm so thankful that it wasn't, because I know that that was a time, as we all recognize in high school, you figured out who you are. And if I had been challenged or questioned about my ability to wear braids, that would have, compromised perhaps my trajectory in terms of kind of becoming who I am today. And so it struck me as we talk about schools, what happened? In the 80s, we were wearing braids to school. So this new focus or redirection on school-based dress codes where locks, twists, and braids are no longer acceptable is a rather new phenomenon that I found troubling, that hopefully with the passage of this bill, we'll be able to redirect.
And one more question. It's my understanding, and I might botch this a little bit, but that courts previously have said they haven't counted hairstyle as an immutable characteristic. They said, well, you can change that. So is there any concern that someone could bring a legal challenge against this law, citing that case law?
Well, the whole point of the bill is recognizing that traits have not been perceived as immutable, and natural hair for African Americans is a natural innate trait. And so that's why we framed the bill and worded the bill the way we did, to hopefully protect against that. Again, as you've said, every Supreme Court case, going back to the 80s when black women were trying to wear their hair braided as working in the banking industry and the airline industry, we've lost. Employers have won. That's why the bill is so critical, to again include natural hair and protected hairstyles, locks, twists, and braids as a protected class. That's the goal of the bill.
Senator, could we hear from one of the ladies as to what that means to them personally in terms of this bill passing?
It is phenomenal because on behalf of Dove, we've been seeing what happens when people cannot express their natural beauty. And we're committed to people having a positive experience of beauty. And much too often, black women in particular are suppressed because of their hair. We have research that shows 80% of black women have to change their hair to feel that they're accepted in the workplace. So what this legislation does is incredible. It says you don't have to. You can bring your natural self to work. You can bring your natural self to school, and that means you can bring your best self and one day be Senator Holly Mitchell or more.
And your name?
My name is AC Eggleston Bracey. I am the COO and EVP at Unilever on behalf of Dove.
And you got to spell that for the TV guys.
Okay, you want me to do that now?
Please.
Okay, ESI is the first name, and last name Bracey, B-R-A-C-E-Y.
Thank
The
you.
middle name in that was Eggleston, E-G-G-L-E-S-T-O-N.
Thank you.
And I think what's important about the bill, that I've been clear as I've talked to groups about it, that it's about choice. It's about you, a black woman, or men, being empowered to choose whether you straighten your hair, whether you choose to wear it natural. My choice on how I wear my hair shouldn't impact my ability to get a job, keep a job, or be promoted. And so if sisters choose to straighten their hair, that's fine. The point is, the choice should be protected.
Senator, can you explain what are the penalties or repercussions if someone breaks this law? Are there fines?
No, it's similar to any other protected class. We have protected class, laws to protect, women, elderly, LGBTQ, sexual orientation, religion in the workplace. And so if someone feels that their rights have been violated, they would go through the normal course that anyone else would who fits those protected class. We've created natural hair and protected hairstyles is added to the protected class category. So you'd go to HR, you sue. You'd go to Fair Employment and Housing and you'd sue. Just like I would if I thought I was being discriminated against because I'm a woman, because I'm black, because I'm 6 feet, whatever the case may be. So it's added to the list of protected class items, if you will.
Anybody else?
Governor, thank you so much. We appreciate
I
you.
love it. Thank you, guys. Thanks all for being here. Congratulations, Senator.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for coming out.
Participants to stay around for one-on-one interviews?
Do you want them here or?
Oh, yeah, do it here. It's your office.
Our office is yours.
Your desk, if you want it.
Take a picture of the bill.
Oh, yeah. My staff's gonna see it.
Look at the bill. Would you hold that? 1, 2, 3. Yeah.